New York City, the city of lights, the city of dreams. Wait, is New York City the city of dreams? Or is that L.A.? Hold on. Yeah, New York City. Wait, Mumbai. And Los Angeles is sometimes referred to as the city of dreams. That's cool. Anyway, New York City might be lacking on some dreams, but you know what's not lacking on? Observation decks. If you're in New York City and you want to know what it looks like from a bird's point of view way up there in the sky, there are plenty of options. You can go to the Empire State Building, you can go to the Freedom Tower, you can go to the top of the rock, you can go to the edge. It doesn't have an observation deck, but you can go to that expensive pencil-looking building that's like falling apart, and you can buy the top floor for like $1 billion. That's an option. Not the ideal one, but it's an option. But one of the most recent additions to observation decks in New York City is Summit 1 Vanderbilt, located at 1 Vanderbilt Avenue in New York City. You may have seen this one on social media. It has that big room of like mirrors and everything's reflective, and I thought that's all they had, but they actually have a lot more, so I'm gonna break it down for you. So this place has a few different ticket options. They have a signature experience, which is pretty much just a regular ticket with the addition of a drink, which is an extra $14 charge, but when you get your tickets, if you think you're gonna want to drink when you get up there, it's a decent deal considering a lot of the cocktails are more than $14. So when you get your tickets, if you know you're gonna get a drink, you can save yourself a few bucks by getting that ticket, or you can just get the regular ticket. And that ticket doesn't include food, so if you want food when you get there, that's an extra charge no matter what. They have a standard ticket that lets you just go up there and see everything, but doesn't give you access to Summit Ascent, which is an exterior elevator, which I'll talk about. But that's basic ticket, no extra stuff. And then the most expensive option is the Summit Ascent, which is the standard ticket plus the entry to Ascent. It's the world's largest all-glass elevator and takes you up an extra 12 stories on the exterior of the building, which I'll talk more about when we get to it. You do get a discount if you're a Long Island or New York City resident, which is nice, and they have photo packages you can purchase, but these are all the ticket options. So here's the pricing compared to some of the other big observation decks in the city. This is a standard ticket for each one, and they all implement the surge pricing method of prices changing depending on the time of day and day of the week. They're not too far off from one another aside from some specific options like child or senior tickets and then booking fees. And I'll talk about that a little bit more later, but I think this one's really worth it as far as the price comparison between all these goes. So let's get started. I did this with my parents, and we got the signature experience ticket that comes with the drink so we could get the full experience and see if that was worth it. I wanted to get the ticket for the Ascent, but at the time the Ascent was closed for structural integrity. They had an issue with the elevator system and they needed to do some kind of repairs. I remember some guy saying like it shook too much. So we didn't end up doing it that time, but I did end up going back. So like I said, I'll get to that later. These are the hours this place is open. I think our ticket was for like 10 a.m. So we arrived a few minutes before that time, and then they lined people up depending on their time slot. They move you along as the line moves. Being there really early doesn't really matter because they just line you up with your time slot, and it doesn't matter if you're the first or last person online for your time slot because once you get up there, you can just roam around at your own pace. I think the amount of time you have up there is like 2 hours, and no one's really keeping track of that, and I assure you that's plenty of time to do everything, so the line is pretty much just to keep everything organized. The entrance to the check-in is on 42nd Street by the Grand Central Terminal, and they have signs for 1 Vanderbilt so you know where you're going, and there's plenty of people there that you can ask in case you get lost. They also have a ticket kiosk so you don't have to get the tickets online if you don't want to. You can just show up and get tickets there. You would just select whatever time slot is open, and I don't know if there's an extra fee if you get them there. I would assume there isn't, but who knows, it's New York City. So they put you online for security, and then once you're through security, they give you shoe covers to put on, and if it's a sunny day, they also give you sunglasses. The next part is this face scanner that they have a bunch of on the wall, and it's optional so you don't have to do it, but what it does is it takes a picture of you and then implements it into a part of the experience later, which I'll talk about when we get to it, but like I said, you don't have to do this. Most people were not doing it. I think they just didn't understand what it was. I did it because I was curious and wanted to see what this whole thing was about. My parents didn't do it was just me, and next time I came, they didn't even have any of them up and running, so I don't know if they only do this on a certain time or day or what it is, or maybe they're just not doing it anymore because it seemed like most people didn't care. But like I said, it's not something you need to do if you're there and they have it working, which, as you'll see later, in my opinion, it's not really that worth it. Once you pass that, they lead you into a dark hallway with some sounds and some lights. And then that leads you to the elevator, which is a bunch of mirrors that kind of give you the feel for the aesthetic of what this place is going to be like when you get up to the observation deck. The observation deck is on the 91st floor, so it zips you up there pretty quick and then hits you with some more lights and sounds. And then the doors open you up to a purple and blue lit hallway, which then leads you into the main area. And then this area is the first of 8 different parts of this experience. The first section is called Transcendence 1, and this is the main draw. This is what you see the most photos of online or on social media. This is the big glass mirror room. It has huge windows and every other part of the wall is covered in mirrors, including the ceiling and the floor. So when you're looking around, it gets a little trippy. It's a really cool effect and it's really spacious, so that helps out a lot. When we were there, it wasn't too busy, and I think people do enough of a good job of moving through this whole thing at a decent pace, so it wasn't too crowded, and that's really nice. We didn't feel squeezed. We definitely felt like we had room to walk around. We weren't like shoulder to shoulder with anyone. I'm sure this is why they do the time slot thing, because it's a steady stream of people instead of like a bunch of people going up there at once. And you know, I gotta say, I really liked this. Obviously it has great views of the city because you're really high up, but I like that it felt a little bit more than just a regular observation deck, which I think is something newer places are trying to do. They want to feel different and stand out from one another, and I think that this is a really cool concept. It was pretty cloudy, but looking back on it, that was actually really nice because the next time I was there, it was sunny, and when it's sunny, you remember that you're surrounded by mirrors and light just reflects off of everything. And it felt like it was always in your eyes no matter where you were standing, so that's why they give you the sunglasses. Doing it cloudy was actually really nice. It also has this ambiance noise playing the entire time. It's not really like music. It just kind of sounds like whoa, whoa, whoa. And after a while, I just kind of tuned it out, but I can definitely see that being annoying for some people. It definitely added to the whole vibe of the place, but I think it's something you can do without. If you've never experienced the skyline of New York City from the top of one of these observation decks, it's incredible and obviously something I think you should do at some point in your life. Pick where you want to go and what you want to see, because obviously if you want to see the Empire State Building, don't go to the top of the Empire State Building, but it's really an experience I recommend. So after Transcendence 1, you follow the path that leads you into the next section, which is called Reflect. This part is pretty much just a room with this art installation by this artist, and it looks like someone just spilled a bunch of liquid mercury on the floor, but it's pretty cool to look at. Again, adds to the whole mirror thing that this place has going on. And here's the description that they have on the wall for that. And then at the end, they have this mini version of the building along with some information about it on the wall. Then this leads into the next section, which is called Affinity. This is the other part you may have seen somewhere if you've seen anything about this place. It's a room covered in mirrors, surprise. And then they have these big chrome balloon balls being blown around, which is pretty fun. They have vents that like constantly have an airstream blowing them, and everyone is just kind of like smacking and kicking them as they float around. The fans do die down a little bit at one point, so then they all just kind of fall to the ground, and then everyone's just kicking them and trying to walk through them. If they're like on the floor as you're trying to exit, you have to like push your way through them to get to the other side. And the audio on my phone is picking up a lot of the fans blowing, but every now and then one of these things would pop, and if you were next to it, it was so loud. The first time one popped, it was like 2 people away from me, and it really caught me off guard. It was a very loud noise. I only have one piece of audio of one popping from like across the room. So then you go up to the next floor, to the next section, which is just the second floor of Transcendence. So this part, surprisingly, is called Transcendence 2. And it's open in the middle, so it does just go around the edge, but it gives you a different point of view of the whole mirror room, which is kind of cool. You're a little bit higher up, a little bit of a different view. It's a fun vantage point for all these mirrors. I also saw these guys on top of a crane, and like, built different, man. Whew, couldn't be me. This next section is called Levitation, and you don't have to do it if you don't want to, but the concept of this is that it's a piece of the building that juts out and has a glass floor. If you want, you can stand on it and you're looking straight down or levitating over the city. There is a line you have to wait in, but they take a professional picture, which is part of that photo package I talked about before. And then once they take the professional photo, you have 30 seconds to take your own photos. So it goes by pretty quick. The line moves because people only have 30 seconds to take photos, and once you're there, those 30 seconds go by really quick, especially if you're with a group of people. Like I said, if that's something you're not interested in, you could pass it up. There's windows everywhere, so if you really don't care about getting the image of you standing on glass above the city, you can take a picture in front of literally any window. After that, this next section is called Unity, and this is where that face thing comes into play. It's a room with this big LED panel that gives you the perspective of flying through the clouds, and if you did that face scanning thing in the start, where they took a picture of you, they put your face into the clouds. But you don't know when your face is coming up because they're just kind of mixed in there. So I didn't see my face, but at the end with the photo package option, they have the screenshot of your face in the clouds. So I did take a picture of that. I wasn't supposed to. Shh, don't tell them. And like I said, next time when I went, they didn't even have that face thing up and running. So this big LED panel was just a shot of like clouds without anyone's faces. It's a cool thing to stand in front of and get a picture and like a video, but like standing in front of the screen projecting digital clouds is not as cool as like getting a picture literally on the other side of the room at the window of the skyline of New York City. It's just way more interesting and a lot cooler to look at, especially since the faces weren't there the second time. I don't know, this is the room we spent the least amount of time in. You can skip it, especially if you didn't take your picture at the start to be put in the clouds. This room is just pretty much a room with a big screen. So after that, you take off the shoe covers because you're not going to be standing on any mirrors anymore, so you go up to the next level, which is the cafe and observation deck. My biggest critique with the cafe is the thing that most places like this seem to suffer from, which is there's just not enough seating. I get it, it's not a very big space, but there's a lot of people moving through it, and they have a decent amount of food options. So if you get food and a drink, you just kind of gotta stand around somewhere waiting for someone to leave, which is not the end of the world. It's just something I noticed. It's a nice space though. They did a good job of like the design of it. It's presented really well, and they had a lot more food and drink options than I expected to see. They have a whole bar, and it wasn't just cocktails. They had wine and coffee, etc. So here's the full menu of what they had for food and drink, and I don't know if it changes. It may change seasonally. Some things may change seasonally, but this is the food that they had when we were there. And this is like what I was saying earlier, if you know you're going to get a cocktail, the signature ones are $19. So if you get the ticket that includes one, you save yourself $5, which isn't the biggest savings in the world, but it's something nice to know before you go. We took a short break to grab a drink and some food. I got the passion fruit Cosmo, and my dad got the melon berry spritz. Delicious. And then for the food, we tried the bagel with lox and the pastrami sliders. The sliders were a bit toasty. I think they could have pulled them out like a minute earlier, but they were good. They were just a little bit crispy on the top. But we were pretty surprised with the bagel though. It had a good amount of lox on it, which for $15 you'd expect, but since this is a more touristy thing, it wouldn't surprise me if they got a little skimpy with it. But that wasn't the case, so good job, guys. And I tried this little apple pie thing, which was really good. Overall, the food was really good, and it wasn't insanely expensive, so that was nice. By this point, it was starting to drizzle a little bit, so we went out onto the terrace, which is appropriately called ready for this? Terrace. We were out there in a bit of rain, but it could have been worse. It wasn't coming down too hard, and it's not like you didn't have a view of the city before this part. It's just that this part is outside, and we weren't going to hang around here too long. We walked around for a few minutes, and this is where the Ascent part is. So like I said, at this time, it wasn't running, but I did come back when it was operational. There's a little desk when you go through the door right before the gift shop that operates as the check-in desk. And then there's a small hallway that brings you to the elevators. When we did this, I was kind of surprised that nobody else was doing it. We were the only people online, and then I saw someone else doing it when we were at the cafe, but I expected it to be a little bit busier, especially since it was closed for so long. At the same time though, I'm not complaining because we got the elevator all to ourselves. So you get in and the operator takes you up an extra 12 floors on the exterior of the building in an all-glass elevator. It's a pretty quick experience. I could be wrong. I think it was a minute and a half up and then 30 seconds at the top and then a minute and a half down. I wish it was a little bit longer for that extra $25 price. It was pretty cool though. It is a nice view when you're up there, but I don't think it's something you need to do. If you're satisfied with the views from the building and the observation deck, that's fine. All this is doing is bringing you higher, and you're in a glass elevator, so you can see directly down below your feet. If that's not something that gets you super excited, don't worry about it. I think you can still have a great experience doing everything else. This is just an extra something to get people in the door. And I spoke to one of the guys and he said that they have another few floors. I'm sure maybe at some point they may renovate those floors and build out this experience more, and there will be even more to do. But this was cool, not something I would do again if I went back. So to finish up, there's a small gift shop that you can walk through, and then the area where you do the picture packages if that's something you got or want to get. And then you get into the elevator taking you back down, and the elevator plays the sounds it did when you were going up, and it does a little light show. And it wraps up the whole experience pretty much the way it started. And there's another gift shop at the bottom when you get out of the elevator. They didn't seem like they had anything different from the one that was up top. It pretty much seemed to be all the same stuff, but they did have this nice water bottle that I considered $50. $50 for a water bottle. Overall, I was really impressed with this experience, and I do think this is one of, if not the best observation decks in the city. I like that it has more going on to it than just an elevator up, walk around a little bit, elevator back down. Not that there's anything wrong with that. If that's what you want to do, then there's plenty of options for that. And I mean, this is one of those. You don't have to participate in all the extra experience stuff, but it's a great view. But this one definitely feels like you're just getting a little bit more for your money. I've been to the top of the Freedom Tower, and from what I remember, that one is pretty much exactly what I said, just going up, looking around, and coming back down. And it's around the same price as this, give or take a few bucks. So I think if you're going to go and you want to pick an observation deck, you just kind of got to weigh out if there's anything else you want to do, and if you don't really care about all that, what view you want to see. Obviously, the Freedom Tower is at ground zero, so that's a whole different view of the city from all the way downtown, whereas this is the opposite direction. Considering all these places are pretty much around the same price as far as tickets goes, all you got to decide is what you want to see. If you don't care about all the mirrors and the extra stuff that one Vanderbilt includes, go somewhere else. But like I said, I think that this is definitely a unique experience, which is 100% what they were going for. It definitely makes it stand out from a lot of the other ones. And who knows, like I said, they have other floors, so maybe in the future this will become a bigger experience and there will be even more that they add to it, and I'm sure the price will go up a little bit if they add more to it. Maybe this will be fleshed out to an even bigger thing, and that's pretty cool. I would love to see what else they do with this. If they decide to add more and I have the time, I'll probably go check it out again. If you're in New York City and you're looking for an observation deck and one Vanderbilt seems interesting to you, I would highly recommend checking it out. But like I said, if you have the money and you want to just buy the top floor of that pencil-looking building for like $1 billion, you could do that too. That's a great view. That's like higher than everything else, so that's a pretty good view. So I'm not telling you what to do with your money, but